for Midgard!
And so the time came when human ingenuity would turn science fiction into science fact. And so we venture into the age of superheroes. But no one could have foreseen that our myths would also become a reality until reality itself was threatened. And it was our myths that came to our rescue as we get closer to a new age, an age of Ultron. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. Thor has always been one of those characters that I like, but at the same time I completely understood why most people didn't find him appealing. After all, he's hard to relate to, he's royalty, he's a god. And the one aspect of his character that made him accessible, which was his handicapped alter ego Donald Blake, was abandoned long ago.
What is this?
Oh. My ex.
So I'm just thrilled beyond description that not only was a Thor movie made, but that the Thunderer, along with his supporting cast, have now acquired a much-deserved, uproarious, and loyal fanbase. And this is all thanks to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it fills me with great joy that the House of Ideas is moving forward with a full movie trilogy for the Mighty One, as very few comic book heroes deserve it more. Now let's head into the Dark World with the plot. 2 years after the events of the last film, we find Jane Foster in England studying the planetary alignment, also known as the convergence, which causes both gravitational anomalies as well as folds in the fabric of space, which allow an individual to move from realm to realm simply by walking through said anomalies. Jane is accidentally pulled through one of these folds and finds herself in a secret cavern where the Asgardian king, Bor, hid a very dangerous weapon called the Ether, which latches onto Jane and is absorbed into her body. The Ether's reemergence is detected by one of the most evil beings in the Nine Realms, Malekith the Accursed, who wants to use the Ether to plunge the universe into absolute darkness. And he will tear the Nine Realms apart and kill anyone to get it, including Jane. Luckily, she has a champion in her corner, Thor, God of Thunder. Our heroes must travel from realm to realm in search of a way to destroy the Ether and stop Malekith. And when all options have been exhausted, they must turn to the most unlikely of allies for help.
You help me escape Asgard and I will grant it to you. Vengeance. And afterward this cell.
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help.
Cast and characters. Odin's beard, this movie has an awesome cast. There are even some that get a little lost in the shuffle, such as Alice Krige, who all you Trekkies may recognize as the Borg Queen. Tony Curran plays Bor, who you also may recognize as Priest in Blade 2, the Invisible Man in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and Vincent Van Gogh in Doctor Who. This man is a chameleon. all of Thor's Asgardian allies make their return. We have Idris Elba as Heimdall the Gatekeeper. Man, was it great to see him do more in this movie. Ha! Nobody messes with Luther, motherfucker! Then of course, we have the lovely and lethal Lady Sif, played by Jamie Alexander. Sadly, Jamie sustained some serious injuries when she slipped on some wet steps on her way to set on a cold rainy morning. She hurt a few of her vertebrae and dislocated one of her shoulders and was hospitalized for an entire month. While I am pleased that Jamie made a full recovery and finished her scenes for the movie, I'm far more pleased that her injuries were not more severe, and that she's okay. I like Jamie Alexander. She's talented, she has a very strong presence, and I look forward to seeing many more performances from her in the future. I was especially thrilled to see her guest star in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. last season. Definitely a major highlight of such a lukewarm season. And what is Lady Sif without the Warriors 3 to back her up? Hogan the Grim, played by Tadanobu Osano. Volstagg the Voluminous, played by the Punisher himself, Ray Stevenson. And Fandral the Dashing, who was originally played by Josh Dallas in the first film. Unfortunately, Josh's commitment to Once Upon a Time prohibited him from returning for the sequel, so the role went to none other than Zachary Levi. Chuck is playing Fandral. Now that is awesome. I've had a deep affection for these characters from a very young age, and even though it is very thrilling in itself to see them in live action, one of my very few minor critiques of this movie is that I really want to see more of Sif and the Warriors 3. I really want to watch a movie where they assist Thor all the way through, which I hope is the case for Thor Ragnarok. It just seems like there was a lot of wasted potential here. We only see Hogan during the first few minutes, and then Thor leaves him in Vanaheim, not to be seen again until a very minor cameo during the climax of the movie. And they seem to subtly start to set up a love triangle between Thor, Sif, and Jane, but it never comes to fruition. All I know is that when Sif first catches a glimpse of Jane, she is throwing daggers at her with her glare. I wish that would have been developed a little further. So all I'm saying is, next time, more of the Warriors, please. On the flip side of that, a character that received a far more involved role than she got in the first movie was Thor's mother, Queen Frigga, played by one of the very best, Rene Russo. It was great to see Frigga more actively involved in the movie, and I like how they established that she is the one that taught Loki magic, hinting at a very intriguing bond between the two. But more importantly, we get to see Frigga kick some ass! Yeah! Hail to the Queen, baby! And of course, you can't talk about the Queen of Asgard without bringing up her king, Odin, played by the magnificent Anthony Hopkins. Jeez, what can I say? It's Anthony freaking Hopkins, one of the greatest actors of all time, playing one of the most important characters in both Marvel Comics and Norse mythology. And as usual, Mr. Hopkins delivers.
If and when he comes, his men will fall on 10,000 Asgardian blades.
And how many of our men shall fall on theirs?
As many as are needed!
Now let's take a moment to cross the Bifrost and visit Midgard, where we find that Jane's research team also made a comeback. The hilarious and loopy Darcy, played by Kat Dennings.
This is the reason we came all the way out here.
It's malfunctioning.
That's what I said. That's what I did. You do something a little more scientific.
And my favorite character in the movie, Dr. Erik Selvig, played by Stellan Skarsgård. We've already seen Dr. Selvig twice before, and in both the first Thor movie and The Avengers, he's your atypical boring scientist with tons of exposition to unload. Here, Dr. Selvig is suffering the after effects of Loki using the mind gem on him, and I think Darcy put it best.
Our friend Eric kinda want banana balls.
No, I don't know how being naked at Stonehenge helps his scientific research. It's funny as hell, that's all I care about. Dr. Selvig went from being a man governed by science and logic to a paranoid whack job that was actually right about the end of the world drawing near. The character just got a million times more interesting, and Stellan handled the change magnificently.
Rick?
Jane! How wonderful. Oh, you've been to Asgard.
Where are your pants?
Oh, he says it helps him think.
Another character that changed for the better was Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman. Like I said before, I was not pleased with the portrayal of Jane Foster in the last movie. She just came off so selfish and one-dimensional. It was just hard to understand why Thor would fall for her. You know, outside of the fact that she is Natalie Portman.
So, we must go.
Yeah, I know. I just, I think I may not want to leave now.
What? Well, I've got my hammer back, I've got a hot girlfriend. Things are really looking fairly well for me. But what about Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay.
Here we find a more emotionally complex Jane, who abandoned her research out of fear of running into Thor, as she doesn't know how she will react when she runs into him again. After all, he did abandon her for 2 years. She's also afraid that if he shows up, he will leave again, like he did last time. But the anomalies created by the convergence are too big to ignore, so she takes the risk and bears the consequences. The question is, how exactly will she react when she sees Thor again?
Jane.
Whoa! I told you I liked her more now.
Jane,
Where were you?
Whoa, I really like her. In fact, I don't think I could possibly like her more.
I'm Loki. You may have heard.
That was for New York.
I stand corrected. Jane is a lot more proactive in this movie, not allowing herself to be victimized by the Ether or Malekith. Hell, there was even a deleted scene where she's researching a way to destroy the Ether by herself. And in the end, along with her team, she plays a crucial role in stopping the Dark Elves. After all, they've been studying the convergence longer than anyone, so they would be the ones to know how to turn these anomalies to their advantage.
That is awesome! How did you do that?
Well, gravitational fields interact with the weak spots between worlds, creating
Oh,
rifts.
get the guy with the sword!
Most of the time. Tough, ingenious, and self-reliant. I can definitely see why she sways the affections of the God of Thunder. And it was so much fun to see her interact with the Asgard characters.
Jane Foster, please meet Frigga, Queen of Asgard, my mother.
Hi.
Now let's talk about our titular character, Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth. Now, from the very beginning, I've always felt that Chris was an excellent choice to play Thor. He's just one of those rare casting choices that is just perfect. He fits the character like a glove, like Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier or Matt Ryan as Constantine. And with every recurring performance, the character gets better and better.
How's space?
Space is fine.
Thor has evolved from a spoiled man-child to a noble hero. And it's a tribute to Chris Hemsworth's talent that Thor's intent always comes across as pure. He is one of the most selfless and generous of the Marvel heroes, and you never doubt his word.
Return to yourselves, no further harm will come to you. You have my word. Very well, you do not have my word.
Now let's talk about the star of the movie. Incidentally, this is not a joke. When I first watched this movie in the theater, the first moment when Tom Hiddleston appears on screen as Loki, all the girls in the movie theater went insane. You'd think the Beatles just walked into the room. The immense popularity of this character is both puzzling and awe-inspiring.
He has a big hammer, and sometimes he hits the hammer on the ground, and all the bad guys fall down just because he's so strong, and he can knock them over with just his hammer.
See who needs a hammer? I push you over with my bare hands.
Most of it is due to Tom Hiddleston's charm and charisma, but a lot of it is due to an inexplicable appeal that the movie version of Loki has. An appeal this character never had before. It's like Loki truly put a spell on us, as he has now become the Spike of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'll explain. Spike was a character that was supposed to be killed off right before the mid-season break of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 2. But James Marsters was so damn appealing as Spike that not only did he survive the next 5 seasons of Buffy, but he was also brought back in the spin-off series Angel. In the same manner, Loki was only supposed to be the antagonist in the first Thor film, but he was so damn charming that both Kevin Feige and Joss Whedon felt that he was the perfect choice to be the main antagonist in the Avengers movie, very much as he was in the original comic. And guess what? Loki wasn't even supposed to be in this movie. It was just supposed to be Thor going up against Malekith, but Loki proved to be such a popular part of the Avengers movie that the filmmakers felt obliged to add him to this movie. Initially, Loki had a minimal role in this film, but after a few test screenings where the majority of the test audience complained that there wasn't enough Loki in the movie, they actually went back and shot a few extra scenes with Loki in them. And let me tell you, they're all great. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't affected by Loki's spell. I love this guy. He's such an arrogant, conniving, cheating bastard. But at the same time, you have no doubt in your mind why his family is always showing him so much mercy. This might be Thor's movie, but it's Loki that rules the fan base.
Say my name. Say my name. Say my name! Say my name!
Now I know I haven't said anything about Malekith, as I plan to bring him up later in the video. For now, I would like to take this moment to dispense some meaningless fanboy gripes! Now before I say anything, I want to make it perfectly clear that I like the poster of this movie. Sure, it's a Photoshop Drew Struzan knockoff, but hey, it still displays some good composition. But there's just one thing. It's the same poster as Iron Man 3! It's the same picture of a superhero holding his girlfriend, with the other characters in the background. And I know that both films have plenty of great alternative posters, but these were the main ones. Come on guys, you're Marvel! These are very different properties, be creative! My god, Gwyneth Paltrow and Natalie Portman's hands are in the same position, for Christ's sake! The same position! And this concludes meaningless fanboy gripes! Favorite scene. As usual, before I talk about my favorite scene, allow me to name some runner-ups. The first runner-up is the escape from Asgard. Odin has put the Golden Realm on lockdown, but Thor needs to sneak Loki and Jane out of the kingdom against his wishes. It's just a great sequence displaying a great deal of magnificent escalation, as our heroes run into one bigger obstacle after the other, with Loki dispensing his usual witty commentary along the way.
Well done. You just decapitated your grandfather.
This sequence also includes a wonderfully unexpected cameo by Chris Evans as Captain America. Interesting fact about the Cap cameo. It was actually written by Joss Whedon as part of his rewrites that he was asked to provide for this movie, during his 3-year run as Marvel Studios' writing consultant. He also added this scene to the movie, which is my mom's favorite. I don't know why, I think it's because there's a nice view out the window. Anyway, is it just me, or does this sound like a Joss line?
You call the cops, they call the feds. Next thing you know, we have S.H.I.E.L.D. crawling all over Area 51ing the place.
Area 51ing the place. If that's not a Jaws-ism, I don't know what is. My second runner-up is the final battle, which sees Thor and Malekith duke it out as the dimensional barriers have grown too thin, so our two combatants are repeatedly dropping from one realm to the other. This is one of the most energetic and creative fight scenes I've seen in a long time. But my favorite scene is actually Thor's intro scene. It's a good 10 minutes into the movie and we are yet to see Thor. We learned from Odin that he's been traveling the 9 realms cleaning up the mess that Loki made in the last 2 films, and creating good relations with the neighboring kingdoms. Then we cut to Vanaheim, where we find Lady Sif and the Warriors 3 leading Asgardian forces against some invading hordes. The situation seems dire, until... fuck yeah, now that is an entrance! This is yet another one of those moments that I felt was missing from the original film. A nice solid introduction to Thor, who he is, why he's considered to be a great hero, even in a realm full of heroic warriors, and we also see the filmmakers showcase Thor's signature moves. Another thing that didn't happen in the original movie. And of course, Thor's most famous signature move, the hammer spin, is saved for the very end of the sequence, when he faces off against the Cronin warrior. This moment holds a great deal of significance as it is Thor's first appearance in the movie, and in his first comic book appearance, Journey into Mystery number 83, he also faced off against some Cronins. Interesting fact, originally a more elaborate fight scene with the Cronin was planned, and it was Joss Whedon who suggested for them to Indiana Jones the scene. I like it better this way. It cements Thor's might, it's funny, and the big brawl is saved for the end of the movie.
Hello? I accept your surrender. Anyone else?
Whoa, talk about kicking your enemy in the gonads. Speaking of which, balls. Bonus Avengers 2. Actually, none of the post-credit scenes in this movie are lead-ins to the Avengers Age of Ultron. We have a quick setup at the end for Thor Ragnarok, then a mid-credit teaser for Guardians of the Galaxy, which as far as I'm concerned was pretty cool, as we get to see Tenelier Tavan the Collector interacting with Lady Sif and Volstagg. It feels good to live in an era where we can see such disparate characters interacting. And last but not least, the true post-credit scene sees Thor return to Midgard to be with Jane. I found it very appropriate that this is the last image that we get to see in the movie. I think the audience deserved to have some reassurance that Thor wasn't going to abandon Jane for another 2 years. And while we're on the subject of things that the audience wants to see, Stanley cameos!
The alignment and all the other worlds would just pass us by. It's beautiful. It's simple. Any questions?
Yeah, can I have my shoe back?
Excelsior! Oh!
Favorite line. Let's face it, Loki has the majority of the best lines in the movie.
If I'm for the axe, then for mercy's sake, just swing it.
If you even think about betraying him.
You'll kill me? Evidently there will be a line.
She wouldn't want us to fight.
Well, she wouldn't exactly be shocked.
But my favorite line actually belongs to my favorite character.
Why are you smiling?
There's nothing more reassuring than realizing that the world is crazier than you are.
Truer words have never been spoken. Final verdict. I have to agree with Linkara. The Dark World is not that dark. Hell, the interior of the Dark Aster in Guardians of the Galaxy was darker than this. When I heard that this movie was going to take place in the Dark World, I honestly pictured something like the planet from Pitch Black. Now that is dark. They should have just called this the partly cloudy world. And also, for a movie called The Dark World, they barely spend any time there. Most of the movie takes place in Asgard or Earth. And yes, I know the title could also be seen as a reference of Malekith plunging the universe into darkness. All I'm saying is that I expected to see a little bit more Dark World in the movie that was named after it. Alright, you guys have waited long enough. Let's talk about the one true flaw this movie has. Malekith. I love Christopher Eccleston. He's a great actor, and the makeup looks amazing. But this is one of the most boring villains in the entire cinematic universe. We went from Vanko to Red Skull to this guy. Malekith the Accursed. What is he cursed with? A lack of personality? He is the most expressionless wet blanket of an antagonist we've seen so far, and his dullness is just amplified by Loki's presence. There's even a scene where he destroys Odin's throne and he takes no pleasure in it. He just destroyed the symbol of power of one of his greatest enemies, and he just keeps walking completely unfazed by it, like a robot. And to top things off, his motivations are really hard to understand. He wants to plunge the universe into darkness. Why? I can understand him wanting to do something along those lines to Asgard, as they were the ones who massacred his people, but why does he want to do the same to the rest of the universe? Does he hate sunlight? Cause he's so pale he gets sunburnt every time he goes outside? Explain, damn it, explain! I think the most blatant metaphor of Malekith's lack of character is how, when he's first introduced, he wakes up from stasis due to the ether being found, meaning that other than finding the ether and destroying the universe, there is literally nothing else to this character. If he's not doing one of those two things, he's sleeping. For any other movie, this would be okay, but come on, we expect a little bit better from Marvel. In the comics and cartoons, Malekith is a devious trickster. Unfortunately, in the films, that role has already been occupied.
Are you ever not going to fall for that?
Anyway, I do want to give major props to the production designer, Charles Wood. It's already difficult enough to design the look of a movie when it takes place in the 40s or on an alien world, but when you have to combine two aesthetics like ancient medieval Viking and futuristic alien tech together, now that is amazing. You never lose sight of the fact that these characters are the basis of ancient myths, but at the same time they are still an advanced alien race. The flying skiffs are among my favorite examples of mixing the two styles. Oh, and the Dark Elves using black hole technology as their weapons as well as the propulsion for their ships, now that is the kind of imaginative concept that Jack Kirby would be proud of. Personally, I think that all the Marvel movies look awesome, but the Thor movies have my favorite costume and production design out of all of them. Now, I'm about to answer a question that will require me to spoil a very important part of the movie. So if you haven't seen Thor: The Dark World, I suggest you stop the video here. You were warned. After the movie came out, I received dozens upon dozens of emails asking me if I truly believed that they killed off Loki in the movie. The answer is no. I don't think they have the balls to kill off the most popular character in the franchise. Plus, it's not like they tried hard to hide it. When we first cut back to the Dark World after Loki allegedly died, we see that the guard that allegedly finds Loki's body is glowing with green energy, as all of Loki's magic often does. Not only that, but it's the same guard that Loki turned into earlier in the movie. And then, of course, there's the smirk on his face after he delivers the news to Odin that one of his sons just died. Who in their right mind smiles after delivering that kind of news? While I don't mind the misdirection, I do wish they would have done a better job of hiding it. Other than that, I felt that this movie was a mass improvement over the original. A lot of the underdeveloped elements were fleshed out. Characters were upgraded, and we got to explore far more of Thor's universe. I give it a 9, and I'm really looking forward to the Thunderer's final solo adventure. And am I the only one who thinks that Disney theme parks should make a ride out of the Bifrost? I would gladly stand in line for an hour to ride that.
We have to do that again.
Cross the rainbow bridge of Asgard, where the booming heavens roar. You'll behold in breathless wonder the god of thunder, mighty Thor. America, America. Find the gap.
How do I get to Greenwich?
Take this train, 3 stops.
Mind the gap.